Hello everybody, welcome to my new episode of Fireside Chats about the brain. And this evening we are in the most amazing fireside settings, and I would love to introduce you to an amazing person who has been a speaker at my conference for the last 4 years, and very, very grateful to Thomas Feiner. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Rachel. Thanks for the invitation.
How are you, Thomas? Yes.
I'm good, thank you very much.
And honestly, when you and I start talking about the brain, we could be here all night. I know we could. So how about you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
So, if not everybody knows, but I'm Thomas Feiner. I'm the founder and the founder of the Institute for EEG-Neurofeedback, which was founded in 2008. And I am a quantitative EEG specialist and expert, so-called QEEG diplomat. I'm an expert in EEG because the measurement of the brain done with frequencies is giving us a broad and very intensive insight of how the brain works and how the brain processes information and deals with emotion and cognition. And I was always interested in how can we help people better who have certain kind of disorders like learning disorders, emotional problems like anxiety and depression and also developmental disorders. Because in my profession, I started to work with a lot of disabled people, and we saw many people where we had not much kind of possibilities and tools how to increase their quality of life. And then I had relatives who became severely ill, and I saw that it was like 30 years ago where there was not much that the doctors could do and say. They just said, yeah, it's something you have to just you have to live with, and there's nothing we can do. And I was never satisfied with that answer. And I got to find out something. What can we do? There must be something more. And I suddenly I read an article in a paper, which was an English paper, and I went to university, and I got to the libraries and reading papers that were not available usually in the regular bookstores, and then there was an article about a thing called neurofeedback, and this really this got me so strong and I thought, wow, what is this? I need to know more about it. And then and they were talking about how the brain can be trained, because many of those problems we have, of course, they are brain disorders, brain problems, and we can teach the brain to behave different so that problem, that disorder kind of disappears or symptoms get better. People have more, people just get better by just doing a simple thing like brain training, looking at the screen and the screen changes the color and hitting some tones and things. And this all sounded so like, that can't be true, that is not possible. But there was already some science about this. There were some publications, and these were not just the people who were talking about something like you have to believe, but that is something they showed data, and it was real brain science. And I thought, wow, if that is something that I could do, I need to learn it. And then I informed myself about some possibilities to learn it, and I got to several workshops and educational programs, and I went to the United States where they have programs already about this, and well, and then I learned neurofeedback. I learned to become a neurofeedback therapist, and I treated my own clients, and I saw it was extremely successful, and I heard all of a sudden I heard parents saying, like, or people saying, "Oh wow, I never had something like this before." You know, I did some simple brain training. I put some electrodes on head. It's not simple, but when you learned it and when you know what to do, then you can really change people's lives. Yeah? And then I decided to become also a trainer and educate other peoples. And I founded the Institute for Neurofeedback in 2008, which we now celebrate the 12th year of our since we started. And I'm so happy and so grateful. We have fantastic people that are working now together with us. We have fantastic trainers who also already have the same enthusiasm like I have in this field, and they love to teach others, and they love to discover other possibilities, and they're so keen on developing our field as well. So yeah, and so we changed in a way where I thought, wow, it's also a very interesting development. I was always interested in research, but now we are a research institute as well. We have a department where we now also develop new protocols for neurofeedback. We're developing new applications for neurofeedback. Like we're doing neurofeedback games. You know, that's really some fun with it. We're doing 3D and virtual reality games. I'd say games, but these are applications that help the brain to better learn this new processes. And so, but this kind of learning can really be very motivating, and it's such an interesting and fascinating journey.
Wow.
And we're going in more and more directions.
Yes, Thomas. So let me just come into a couple of things that came up for me as you were talking. Firstly, I'm sorry, because it sounds like on the journey, what was really the awakening point was that you were seeing people very dear to you that as you say, 20, 30 years ago, the doctors would just say, nothing we can do. And that seems to be one of the instigators that was driving you to say no, because it's interesting that the brain gives feedback to the whole body, but the brain has to give feedback to the brain.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to do it.
Absolutely, and we need to learn how our body is a whole, and it's such an interesting and fascinating how to find out how this all comes together. When we now talk about the brain, I can't stop to say, oh yeah, there's a brain, but there are organs like our heart, there's our gut, and our how we perceive information, and how we are as beings, how we process not just information, how we are how our emotions kind of drive us, and how they make a change, and is very this, and now we have now the possibility to measure that. And I was since the last 4 years ago, we started to work with Dr. Joe Dispenza together in his research group for measuring meditators and their brains, and that really also was like a starting point where we saw it's such an amazing thing to watch people's brains, how they can change in a few days, and it's really amazing. Yeah, and we find out more and more about the connections between the organs like the heart and the brain. I'm very much interested in the communication and the relationship between heart and brain, and so really there is a communication between heart and brain. One of the last things we started in research, this is just our very recent research project, is to measure the so-called heartbeat evoked potentials. And this is a measurement that shows that the heart is really communicating with the brain, because every heartbeat makes the brain evoke a certain potential. I hope I don't be. I'm not too much going into detail, because not everybody understands what is a brain potential. But let's say in a simple way, the brain responds to a stimulus, and each stimulus can elicit a certain amount of activity in the brain, which we call a brain potential. And so a stimulus that comes from the heart, which is the so-called R wave, we can measure as an electrical potential, as huge electrical potential, of course. And we can now relate this potential to a brain potential. So every heartbeat is that the brain responds in a certain way, and that potential can be negative or positive, and it depends on how you're emotional aroused. The higher you're aroused, the more difference you have in the heart, in the so-called brain evoked potential from the heart. And that's a fascinating thing, and we are very keen on working on this, because we are sure that this measurement can help clinicians and trainers to better understand their own their interaction or their emotion, the emotion of the brain of the client. And there is a lot of interesting findings we do already with the research, but the published research is also huge in this region. It's really very, and it's something new, and it was not so well known before, and now it's getting more and more known, and putting this together is a fascinating part of the research in general.
Yes, well, Thomas, thank you for sharing. Can I clarify some things with you? So I'm fascinated with what you're doing, because really it's this coherence, heart and brain, isn't it? So you're saying that when every heartbeat affects the potential of the brain, the heart actually emits a magnetic field. So is it a magnetic influence on the electric brain?
Maybe there is also the magnetic field of the heart influences the brain as well. What we can measure at the moment is the interaction between the heartbeat and what happens in the brain. Right. And one of the papers that was published recently in this year in January, where during a systolic phase, the brain is less what would I say, attentive to information from outside. So we're kind of suppressed. There's a suppression of information processing during a systolic phase. So
what would you describe? What is a systolic phase?
Systolic phase is when the heart pumps blood into the brain, blood into the vessels.
Right.
And then you have the diastolic phase, where there's more like a relaxation, and it's preparation for a new systolic phase. So heartbeat is beating, and then it stops beating, and then it waits until the next beat. So the systolic is just after the diastolic is after the systolic and before the systolic phase.
Right.
So the systolic phase is more the active part.
Yeah.
And so during that in that moment, there is a suppression of information processing in the brain.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So
the
so
brain
the attention
doesn't
of the
let us
brain,
know everything.
right?
Mm.
And what I'm hearing there is the attention of the brain is going up and down with the heart.
Yeah. With the heartbeat. Yeah. The detection
Amazing.
of perception changes during a systolic phase. Your perception of, for example, of pain is different, than during the diastolic phase. But this is just a finding where we that also is a proof, a clear proof that the heart is connected so strongly with the brain.
Amazing.
And yes, it's really amazing. And because this is the case, and there's another findings that when you are aroused, emotionally aroused with strong emotion, or like let's say generally, when you're emotionally aroused, that the potential that happens after a heartbeat, a so-called R wave, then that potential can have a higher or lower amplitude. It can become positive or negative, and that is also correlated with the emotion. Yeah? And so this is a marker that can become a biomarker for an emotional state, whether you are in a more happy, have a more happy feeling, a more positive feeling, or negative feeling. It can become a true marker, and it depends how high that potential is. The more you are in that emotional state, or less you are in that emotional state.
Yes. We've got
Very
an
nice.
audience.
Oh, beautiful. What's your
We've got
name?
an audience.
The audience. Yeah.
He's come to sit in front of the fire, I think. Now, another question I have, and this is a fascinating question as well. This was asked. Somebody asked me this some I think some weeks ago. They asked me about emotions, because obviously in the brain we are processing, we have the limbic system, the emotional brain, the sort of imprinting of emotions with memories, the chemistry behind the emotions. But then how do we generate emotions in the heart? Where does it
go? Well, what comes into my mind when we talk about heart and emotion, the thing is where do we feel emotion? Emotion is actually something we know, the brain, we have the frontal lobe, and there is the limbic system, and this is the home of the emotion, right? But where do we feel the emotion? It's there.
That's right.
It's in the heart, where the heart is. We feel it. Sometimes we feel it more in the stomach, but that's the place where you're becoming aware of the emotion. Our brain is not feeling. Our brain is not having any pain. The brain doesn't have pain receptors. Yeah. So it's interesting to see how we get we get the information. This is just like a computer, and but how it is perceived and how we live with it, it's felt in the body. And the heart. This year I read an article about probably the heart is even a part of our person, of our what we call personal being, identity. That's called identity. And and there are these heart transplantations, and if you take, and there are people who got who report about their experience when they got who got another heart from another person who died, of course, and it's really I couldn't believe it, but it seems to be true, and I believe it's true. So one person she liked to read novels and I don't know the word. She was a painter, and she got the heart of a race car driver. And now she was interested in cars and fast cars. She was like, she changed her personality.
Goodness.
Because, and she didn't know what's going on with her. I mean, she didn't change totally, but she was interested in things she was surprised about. Yeah.
Yes.
And now, and then she figured out maybe, but just per chance, but she was interested in whose heart is beating now in her chest, and probably the heart stores a lot of our personality as well, of our identity, and of course there are emotions are stored probably also in the heart, and we also talk about the so-called broken heart syndrome, you know, and all of this, and if you're living in a permanent situation of fear and anger or whatever, people get heart attacks, people get and heart of stone, for example. All these impressions or expressions, they also they have so much truth in it, because there are people who have arteriosclerosis, and if you permanently and we call about the heart, if you're feeling like in a stressful situation, it starts to get the room, it starts to get smaller in your heart, and that is also making your heart harder. And arteriosclerosis is nothing else but a loss of flexibility. You're in a permanent state of stress, and that makes and this doesn't release the hormone it releases all the hormones of stress, and the hormones of stress, we know they have an impact on your vessels. So it's all connected together.
Amazing.
And that's it. And the question is really of course the emotions that we have, they have of course an impact on the brain, and then on the heart. There is a connection between heart and brain.
Yes. Although we do, you know, there is that research that demonstrates that social pain does actually light up the areas of the brain where we have physical pain manifesting. So again, it's that question of, okay,
sorry, I didn't hear the first.
Social pain.
The first part was just muted because of the connection. Can you please repeat the sentence? Yeah.
So we know from the research that social pain actually lights up the same areas of the brain as physical pain.
Oh.
So yes, we know that, you know, also this feeling of frustration or feeling unfairness, all of this is affecting the brain, but obviously it's that, as you say, it's the impact on the heart as well. And this connection, as you're proving with your research, is maybe much more than we've ever dreamed.
Yeah, and all this how would I say, this reminds us on how important it is to I love this words like open your heart, you know, and your heart gets open, you widen your vessels. There's now a way that there can be information flow, and you're increasing a lot of different hormones, like oxytocin, for example. Yeah, and this is not just a hormone that makes you like feeling love for everybody or for you and others, well, and it's you have to get the impression on and feel really like getting more to feel it and to make it, and that makes a difference, because the brain doesn't make a difference between a real situation and a just imagined situation. So if you and yeah, and then we have also the we enter the realm of plasticity and neuroplasticity, and this is and emotions play a huge role in this. Yeah, and besides all of this, we really need to be more connected to our body and feel and listen to our body and listen to our emotions. Yeah, when we feel it's kind of getting too hard for us, or we're not able to cope a situation or cope with a situation, and we are like living in an anxious or in a dangerous situation, but it's important that we always come back to ourselves and then release more of our ability to change the way we look at things, and that can make a huge difference. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, Thomas, what tools are going to be available for us to really understand ourselves more and measure coherence, training the brain?
Yeah, there are many tools at the moment available for us. My favorite tool is, of course, neurofeedback, as where we have the ability to not just measure the brain, but we can give feedback to the brain by looking at, not just looking at numbers, but actually we're dealing with numbers, but these numbers are calculated. This is just the thing what the computer does. But what's interesting here is there was the work with EEG. It gives us insight to the brain in a very different way. Like, for example, if you're relaxed, in a relaxed state, you're definitely producing more alpha. And alpha waves, we know, are related to more relaxed states. Yeah? But you can also say, but alpha is not always a good thing to have. You know, if you have it more in the frontal lobes, for example, this is not the place where alpha should be all the time. It's more situated and it should be more in the back of the brain on the so-called occipital lobes or parietal lobes. And if you deal with beta, for example, beta can be a very helpful frequency. But if it's too much, you're probably too much aroused. You probably have also anxiety or even a panic disorder, and all these problems can be treated with neurofeedback, where you can increase, where it's possible to increase or decrease the amount of frequencies, and that is one of the ways how to do it. And we can also look at the brain by using a thing called quantitative EEG. This measure gives us much more possibilities to look at at how the brain processes information, and also, of course, where there are healthy patterns and less healthy patterns. And it's very, it gives us possibilities to look at the brain in that way. We call it biomarkers, for example. Yeah. And so we have biomarkers for anxiety, for depression, for
ADD.
stress and sleep and pain, and there's a lot of ways how to better know about the condition of your brain, not just when you're already ill and have a problem, have a disorder, but even before it starts. Yeah? And one of the things everybody should be kind of interested in is like, where can I get a brain map? You know, like because that is one of the most interesting things you can know about. And so if you know how your brain is when you're healthy and now you're getting a problem, well, everybody can get, you know, it can be an accident. I don't want to think about everything what could happen, but you never know, yeah. But then you know, oh, okay, this was my brain when I was healthy and was something good when I was young, when I felt good and everything. So, and years later, you have another measurement, and if you compare these two measurements, maybe they are the same, yeah, and then it's okay. And but if you kind of starting getting a problem, but maybe after some times in your life when you had stress and you start sleeping bad, you want to know what's going on, and then you compare with the previous state and the state now, and to say, wow, here is a difference. And then if you have a good trainer, he can help you exactly with the training to bring you back to your previous condition. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's not only neurofeedback, of course. You can of course do more. You can do meditation, of course. This is fantastic. You do more exercise. You change your way how you your food, and there are many more ways, of course. But you can always combine things. Yeah.
Yes. Well, just then to clarify, neurofeedback is literally electrodes are placed in positions on the brain. So they're reading the brain waves.
Yes.
And this is feeding into a computer, and the computer is giving the brain waves on the screen and telling, you know, the state of that brain. Now, to train the brain, it's really the person working with the computer to then control those brain waves. And that's how we learn to go into those different states, because we see the reaction of the computer. May I confess to our listeners that you have mapped my brain?
Yes.
You have. Yes, we confess.
It was nice.
It was. Now, I remember when I sat in that chair, Thomas, and you had me all hooked up on the screen, I remember you saying to me, relax. And I thought I was relaxed. And a couple of minutes later, you said, Rachel, relax. You're not relaxed. And I'm thinking, how does he know? And it was because the screen was pink.
Yeah.
So you get really the instant feedback that actually, even though I thought I was relaxed, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And that made me realize.
This is one of the this gives such a different value on what we can do with neurofeedback, as we have a window that we can open and look into how the brain is, how the different states. Of course, when the brain is asleep, there's a difference than when it's awake, of course. But this is a huge difference. But we have also those different, like, it's amazing to see when relaxation, I can see very, very easily in the brain. So I know which patterns have to come up. And it's not just looking at the brain waves, but because we have those super fine elaborated measurements where we're measuring in microvolts. So this is a millions of a volt.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, earlier, before we came onto our chat, you were telling me about some research that you're doing about connectivity. Thomas, have I lost you?
But also focused. You need to have that state of we call it optimum arousal. And so there are different states where we can be, like like, okay, let's, at the one end you have a low arousal, you're tired or you just woke up and you need to start the day, and then sooner or later your arousal gets a little bit more, and so you have a breakfast and you have a coffee. So now you're getting into more like an optimum arousal state. You feel awake and you feel focused. Yeah? And in this level of arousal, you are probably mostly your performance is on a high level. You perform. That's interesting. The best performance you have in a mid level of arousal, and that means you're staying focused, but your body is calm, yeah, and your heart is beating moderately, slowly, and this is the moment where you're mostly or also resilient against stress and things from outside. So this is the state where you should stay usually. Oh, and the perfect state is the so-called the state where you are just doing your thing and you're not having any effort. But the more you're going into higher arousal, like you're getting stressed, and then you need to do this and that, and your load and the emotional load and the cognitive load is getting more and more, and you're getting into high arousal, like stress. Yeah, and so neurofeedback is the regular wake state neurofeedback. There are different ways of how to do neurofeedback, but the regular neurofeedback is to bring you into a state of arousal where we call it also you're in the zone. Yeah? And that is the optimum arousal level. And this is something where the neurofeedback can bring you automatically to this state where you don't have to do something, because there is nothing like you control. And it's better if you're usually more the stressed person who lives under stress and has difficulty to calm down. You better not take control, because you let the feedback do the job. Yeah. Much better than you try, because how many times have those people tried to relax better, but they failed. They couldn't make it, because they're feels. But that's really nice. It's people this is the feedback you get then from the people who do, and you also experience it, right? I mean, you learn it quite fast, I would say. Yeah. Because experienced meditator does it is like, okay, but usually that takes a while. Yes. Until you learn not to interfere, and that's the nice thing, because the computer program is giving you the feedback automatically. We do not do it. It's not like a hard we make that so easy, so that the level we want to increase is easy to reach. So we're setting the limits to a level where everybody can go to without effort. Yeah. Yes. And then because there is no effort, people learn it even faster. And that's an amazing thing as well, because learning without effort, neurofeedback is learning without effort. And there's an amazing amount of progress in learning because it's no effort, you know. And this is about the same thing that you do, actually.
That's right. That's right. Neurolanguage coaching is about learning without effort.
Without effort. And the effect is huge, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, Thomas. And I have to say, you know, I think on behalf of the world, we want to thank you for really being a pioneer in this, because you have really helped get neurofeedback researched and running in the world. And, you know, just to say to everybody as well that neurofeedback is no pharmaceutical, so there's no medication, it's non-invasive, and it is the most amazing treatment for people who have anxiety, panic attacks, depression, ADD, ADHD, children as well. We don't need to medicate children anymore because there is neurofeedback. And they're having amazing results with it, aren't they?
Rachel, I couldn't have said it better. Yes, it's what it is. It's a treatment that has no side effects. And sometimes people say, but if it has no side effects, it can't be effective. Yes, of course, some people experience side effects with neurofeedback. That's possible. But, you know, I always say in medication, you have to accept those side effects. So it's called, they call it now unwanted effects. But if you have that in neurofeedback, we look at it at a different perspective, because, well, the brain has to learn something different. Now the brain gets like, oh, well, this is irritating. It could be irritating if something new comes into the scene. And it could be, some people have, oh, I couldn't sleep well last night. That part of the brain is learning, has to adopt it, has to kind of get acquainted to this new situation. I'll let the brain get used to it.
Yes.
Well, okay, and then it could be, okay, oh, probably it's a half-hour session usually. Sometimes it takes even less or a little bit more, but half an hour is the average of how long a neurofeedback session is lasting. So that half an hour was too much, possibly. Next time we're starting maybe with just 15 minutes or 10 minutes of training and see how the brain copes with that new situation and then gets easily adopted to that new situation. Well, we don't accept side effects because we want people feeling better, and that usually happens. But yes, sometimes the brain needs a little bit of time, and we give the brain the time, that's all. And it learns.
Yes.
And I always say that the trainer is someone who enables, who creates an environment where the brain has an optimum situation for learning. And there's a lot to do with the trainer as well. It's not just the machine, it's not just the computer, it's not just the program, it's a trainer. And this is why I say people should have a good trainer. And that trainer is also a coach, and he is the one who is giving the therapeutical sense to it, and it's also the human factor, of course. But a good therapist is not just Oh, you're back.
Honestly, the internet was a little bit shaky there, so I'm not sure what happened. So let's draw this fireside chat to a close. And how do you see the future of neurofeedback?
Well, I think it has a great future. We see in the last years, when I started neurofeedback, it was kind of 20 years ago, I was the first, I remember in my whole environment. So everybody said, oh, what are you doing? You're measuring EEG, and what's that? Oh my God.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
well, now much more people have accepted it, and it's growing in a way where we can be like, oh yes, there is a lot of things has changed, but still not. I'm so glad that I feel like an ambassador in this case, like you feel like an ambassador for we're all like, we are all one
Yes.
in that in this situation.
Absolutely.
Because we know that there is a good alternative, but not everybody knows it, you know. And there are still doctors, there are still people, professional people, where you say, and researchers could just deny what we're doing, and they keep denying still, and they don't see the facts, yeah.
Yeah.
But
They don't want to see the facts, Thomas.
they don't want, of course. So, well, we're not finished here. We're on a good level of acceptance, yeah.
Yeah.
But we have to continue with our work. We have to kind of increase the amount of research, of course, but we have to tell people. People need to know.
Yes.
More need to, and then it should be like normal when you have a depression, or when you're on anxiety, suffer from anxiety disorder, and you go to a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist, and he should know that there is neurofeedback or biofeedback. He should say, okay, did you have had a brain map? And do you know that there is a guy I know who does neurofeedback, and can you go to him?
Yeah.
It would be normal, totally normal, as the same as if they prescribe medication, before they prescribe medication. I mean, that's how they should know that, okay, a very severe case, for example, yeah, sometimes you don't have an alternative.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
need something to start with, and then, but
Yeah.
there are many mild cases where neurofeedback, biofeedback would have done a wonderful job. Now they are on the medication. They have benzodiazepines for years and years and years, and they can't get rid of. They can stop medication because that would increase their problems. Now it's very, very difficult, and that could have been avoided. So that to become so normal. And it's even not more, it's really not more expensive if you look at the cost side. I have many talks I had talks to doctors who say, how can we pay for that? And but the cost is actually less compared to the cost of the whole thing. If you are on the medication that takes for years, it's so hard to get rid of the medication. I would say that should be really, there must be more change.
Yes.
But, well, we're working on it.
Absolutely.
we're getting more and more people. We're getting more and more. Yeah.
Absolutely, and we will do everything. I will do everything that I can to get you more and more out there and well known, and neurofeedback more and more well known, and definitely all of the amazing research that you're doing. So underneath our video, I will be putting all of your information. So we'll be having your contact details, everything that you're doing, so that people can find you and find your institute and have more information about the research. I could be here all night by the fire talking to you, Thomas, but maybe we will save that for another fireside chat. Anything that you'd like to say to our listeners to finalize?
Well, with pleasure. Please take care of your brain, take care of your heart, learn something new, be interested, be open-minded, put time in your schedule for relaxation, learn a new language, and follow us and live a happy life, and take care.
Fantastic
And learn more.
words.
Yeah.
Yes, Thomas, thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
can't wait to see
Thank you
you.
very
And
much.
definitely, Thomas, I'm hoping that next year we get you live at our next conference.
Yes, I hope so too.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yes. Ich drücke die Daumen, wie in Deutschland.
Yeah.
Ja,
cross
wir
our
drücken die
fingers.
Daumen.
That's it.
Yes. So thank you,
Wir
Thomas,
drücken
very
die Daumen.
much.
Das machen wir.
Yes, thank you. We'll say goodbye
That's
to
my pleasure.
everybody
Thank you
now.
very much.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.